Taeron Lewis, welcome to the On the Ice show. Beautiful day today. I have to say it's finally great to meet you. As we said off camera, Mom has some wonderful words about her fine young son, and she was probably extremely happy to have you home a couple months early. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, she definitely wasn't too disappointed to get me back home.
Getting you back home now. Norwich University, if anyone doesn't know, is somewhere in the middle of Vermont on the East Coast. A military academy, military college founded back in 1819, doing some research there on the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
We'll get to how we made that decision to Norwich in a couple of minutes. Taeron, I have to say, first off, all of your minor hockey years, growing up in Winnipeg, playing hockey, have you ever thought that this would be the way the yellow brick road would work for you?
No, I definitely didn't. I think, being from Winnipeg, I think you kind of, the teams that you, or at least spots in the States that you kind of think of hockey going as like UND or something if you're doing the NCAA route. But I remember I always thought about like the Minnesota, North Dakota areas and stuff like that. So just to kind of end up in Vermont was something that I never even had considered beforehand. And I'm fortunate the way the cards fell, and that's where I got to go. So yeah, definitely at a younger age, I wouldn't have anticipated it, but I've got no regrets the way it went.
Certainly no regrets. Looking over your career, you are a player that likes to stick with the team for as long as you can. And I say that because your AAA years were all with one squad. Your Manitoba Junior Hockey League was all with one squad, never traded. Firm believer of the Winnipeg Blues organization. And then finally, when you had to make the step up and get into the collegiate level, it was only one university in Norwich. Do you remember the first days of you lacing up the skates back in the day when you were a young lad?
Yeah,
a couple days out of the womb.
Yeah, I do, and I remember the ice packs I needed to help remedy myself afterwards.
Where were the ice packs? Where did you put them?
Right on the glutes usually. That was my barrier for falling.
Yeah, okay.
But I remember I used to think I was a hot shot because I was really into rollerblading. And I got to hockey a little bit late. And my dad, I remember we were going out to the rink, and I was like, it's just like rollerblading, I'll be fine. It wasn't even my first step on the ice, and he's picking me up off my keister, and it was a humbling experience. But no, it was definitely it's still in the back of my mind. I laugh at kind of how naive I was back then.
So back then, it took a little bit. So when did you start your hockey career then? If it was a little bit later.
Well, I say later, but I first started playing, I guess, in a league when I was 6 years old. Usually, guys are starting a little. I know it's not the cool story where I started in high school or something, but
no. I mean, you say later on, I'm thinking, okay, 10 or 11, but we're Canadians, so like unless you're skating by 4, you're behind the 8 ball already.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So we're on the same page here.
8 ball, yeah.
Okay, so dad's helping you skate. Was dad a good skater, or was mom the good skater growing up?
Both my parents could skate, but my dad was definitely the one that I kind of leaned on to help me because he played for a bit, and he had some speed back in the day. We used to kind of quarrel back and forth who would have beat each other on the ice in a one-on-one, and he likes to go with himself. I like to go with myself. So he's definitely helped kind of get that competitive nature in myself. So
is it one of those things? I mean, you talk about athletes from all different genres of sport. That I want to say the killer instinct, but the instinct of playing a game for a competitive sake, but also knowing that how to win graciously and how to lose, knowing that there's a lesson to be learned. Was that something that your parents and your coaches growing up kind of instilled, or you were able to get that message across?
Absolutely. I think that was a very important thing. We do talk about the competitive nature. At the end of the day, you do want to win, but like I said, my dad's been pretty influential. He's been my biggest fan, and everything he said I've listened to with I've listened to it to heart and kind of taken it to heart. And he always just kind of instilled that, like, you're not going to win every game. You're not going to play your best game every game, but sometimes when the cards don't go your way, you just got to learn from it and take what kind of valuable lessons you can, so that in turns it doesn't happen again. It might sometimes, but you just kind of got to learn from the experience and roll with it.
And I think that's a lesson that every youngster in any sport needs to learn, that there is a way to handle both winning and losing when it comes to competitive nature. Taeron, thank you for mentioning. That's tip number one to all the youngsters who are watching. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about growing up, getting through the ranks. Let's talk about your AAA days. There was still a lot of players playing AAA, not so much moving up to the WHL right away. I mean, the Bantam draft was there, but knowing that you wanted to stay in Winnipeg, your academics was also very important to you, I would say, at the same time, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That was something that my parents really were adamant about. You did mention the WHL. I was drafted by the Tri-City Americans in the WHL, and that was something that my family kind of thought heavily about, just because that's kind of way on the other end of the coast in the States there. And just where I went to high school, it was a pretty tedious kind of schedule. So we did kind of have to consider if my school was kind of going to take a bit of a hit off of that. And that was partially kind of why we decided, well, I was always pretty interested in college hockey in the States, but that was definitely something that we weighed our options on, was just the fact that my school would kind of take a bit of a hit, likely, if I was to kind of move outside of the local area, so to speak.
Where did you go to high school, Taeron?
St. Paul's High School.
You were at St. Paul's. That's what I thought. Okay, so I was a Ravenscourt kid growing up too.
Okay.
We both know the importance of the academics, going to a private school. I'm not saying that it's any better or any worse, but the instillment of education, the academics, and the importance of that, as well as playing very high-level competitive hockey. From a young age, you have to understand your time management and how important that is.
Oh, it's crucial. Absolutely crucial.
So when you go through the St. Paul's, did you play rugby at all?
I didn't. No, I
Okay.
kind of kept it just. Yeah, it was unfortunate. I always wanted to play at St. Paul's Sports, but I was playing hockey and baseball at the time, and it just didn't work that way.
Speaking of playing baseball, how important is it for athletes to still remember that there are other seasons for other sports? And cross-training, we've seen a lot of the professional athletes, to mention one, Patrick Mahomes just recently. He always is a huge proponent of saying cross-training and playing multiple sports at a young age really develops the other skills of each sport without even thinking about it. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think it kind of works just naturally. You kind of figure out the biomechanics and things kind of translate from one sport to another. And I actually was playing, I remember for years after years, it was just always hockey, baseball, football. I just kept playing those back and forth. And it's kind of funny. You do take little things from each game that can potentially give you a little bit of an edge too. And with my dad always loved it. With football, I was a running back, and he always told me, well, when I was playing running back, you'd lower your shoulder through a guy. And I always kind of liked more of the rough stuff on the ice, and he was just always like, just pretend you got the football and you're about to blow a guy up or something. So that
there you go.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a thing that I was able to take from the different sports and kind of amalgamate it.
Yeah, I would say rule 2 to all the youngsters out there: the lower body usually wins when it comes to contact.
Yeah, low man wins.
Low man wins. I remember those days in rugby and football myself. So I always imagined that the boards were 2 feet outside where the actual boards were. So I would want to put them through the boards.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be my initial thought, and I'm pretty sure you think the same. So going to high school, we're playing AAA hockey. We then make the call up to the Blues.
Yeah.
And you're in that jurisdiction where, like, was there only just one team in Winnipeg back then, or was this?
Yeah,
so that was the home team, right?
Yeah, the Saints ended up turning into the Verdun Oil Caps that
right.
year. So
okay, so you had to pick with the Blues, and you had one game up in your AAA days, and then you became a full-blown member of the Blues. You put up some pretty good points in that senior year in the NJ. I'm not gonna lie, it was like 61 or 68 points or something.
Yeah, it was 68. Yeah, I'll get you
68.
on
Okay, good. All right.
But no, it was awesome how it worked out. It was just that's kind of how I've been with my career. Whenever I start, I usually progress a little bit more. You get a bit more comfortable with yourself. You kind of develop, and just I've also played with some pretty great players. So I'm not going to take full credit. I've had a couple secondary assists where the guy did most of the work, and but
get your name on the score sheet, buddy.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, I do. I really try to focus on kind of what we were talking about before. What can you learn from your experiences and kind of implement that into what comes next?
So do you remember that day you stepped on the ice playing in the MJ, going from AAA? Were you a little bit nervous, a little bit timid, or any choice words your dad or your coaches might have said to you when you step on the ice the first time?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous, but I think it's good to be nervous because that's how you know that you kind of care out there. And I don't know. I just know my dad's always been that kind of person where it doesn't matter how old you are, how big you are, just at the end of the day, do your best, and that's all you can do. So I just remember him saying that. And my one game that I got called up when I was still playing with the Monarchs there was against Portage, but I really remember my first one when it was my first full season was against Selkirk. It was in Selkirk, and I just remember that. It was a surreal feeling, and my dad doesn't know this, but I usually always take a peek up at him just to see if he's there and stuff,
Yeah.
and that kind of gives me a bit of motivation too to kind of make sure I'm giving it my all.
One more question before we break too, and this is a question more about family. But when you're looking in the stands, obviously as a AAA player, because mom and dad still have to drive you to the games, or the home games at least, was it a different game when they were in the stands watching you? And how has that changed over your AAA junior and your Norwich years? Because I know mom and dad have come to see you play in college hockey. I know they've seen you play the Blues. I know you've seen you play Monarchs. So has that type of game changed? Do you step it up a notch when they're in the stands, or do you know that they're watching at home, or what?
Well, it's kind of funny, but my family's been extremely supportive with it. I don't know if I've ever had a chance where I could take a night off, because I think with my dad, in my entire hockey career, you could probably, well, excluding since I moved to a different country to play hockey, but before that, you could probably count on one hand how many games he'd missed. So I was never able to take the night off knowing that I wasn't going to get a conversation in the car ride or something if I wasn't bringing it. But no, I definitely would make sure I'd bring it. And then just in being in Vermont there, knowing that they weren't there, I knew that they were watching because Norwich usually had a great feed that I was playing through. And it was just different. It's just, I don't know. I just found that I was, well, you're playing for your team and yourself, but I'd be in the back of my mind, like, knowing that they're still able to watch me while they're playing, and they watched every game, so it didn't really change for me. I knew I had them watching.
We're going to take a quick break, Taeron, and we'll come right back. We're going to talk about our first days in a different country on a different coast.
Yeah.
Talking about Tri-City. You did like the West Coast. You went to the East Coast. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back on the ice.
Awesome.
Taeron Lewis back here on the ice, back in Winnipeg a little bit early due to the pandemic that's been going on. We'll get to that in just a couple of moments, but I got to ask you, how did you make the decision from going to play junior A hockey in Winnipeg to Norwich University in Vermont?
Yeah, it's a man, a bit of a legend in Norwich is Steve Matson. He was kind of the traveling salesman selling Norwich to some players, and he was in at the Iceplex watching one of my games, and he was just kind of spoke with me after the game, and he was like, "Yeah, I'd love to get you out to come on a visit and see the place." And once again, me thinking hockey in Vermont, that wasn't the first thing that came to mind. So I actually got to go down on a trip and kind of see the place, and just immediately fell in love with it. It's in the New England landscape there, so it's all the ivy, the brick walls, and everything. And I call them mountains, but they call them hills there. But yeah, so that was pretty cool for me to see too. And getting out of the land here, going to see something a bit different was an experience. And I was just like, there's no way I'm passing this up. So I took the opportunity to go there, and I didn't regret it.
Absolutely. It's the Northern Appalachian Green and White Mountains, I believe, if my U.S. geography comes back to haunt me.
Yeah.
Remember, you weren't in school, or were you in school during Blues play?
I was. So my senior year of high school was my first year with the Blues, and
Right.
then I did a little bit of stuff at the University of Winnipeg, and then for 1 year, and then I was just doing some work while still playing junior, and so I was 20 years old when I ended up finishing in the MJ and then moving to Norwich.
Okay, so a bit of a hiatus from the academics. Was it hard for you to prepare getting into collegiate academic mode again after taking a break, or did you write SATs in high school? Were you writing them while you were at U of W? How did you begin that preparation after Madsen comes in and sells you on Norwich University?
I did write the SATs in high school, and then, but if I'm being honest, I really kind of enjoyed having the hiatus, so to speak, just to kind of get a break. Because if you think about how many years you've been doing school, it kind of gets a little strenuous with just all the stuff you're having to absorb. And so kind of having that little break, I think, was actually really beneficial. And I know people would kind of laugh with some of the hockey guys because we were a bit older, because usually everybody played juniors till 20 and then went, and then whereas you have a true freshman who's 18. So I just think kind of being a bit more mature helps going to school too. You're not really as distracted by things. I know it's only a couple years older, but it does make a bit of a difference. Just you kind of realize a bit more what's more important, and that your academics are a bit more serious than you might consider at 18, because you might think the world's your oyster still. You kind of
You're a brand new adult. You're 3 years under the drinking age or the partying age. But remember, you're 20 years old stepping into a campus that's 200 years old now.
Yeah, the bicentennial. Yeah.
Yeah, it's how impressive was that experience for you the first time you showed up on campus? I mean, brand new, like you said, rolling hills versus prairies, kid from Winnipeg going to play hockey. What was your awe moment when you realized, okay, I'm going to be here for a while, I'm going to take this all in?
My awe moment. Well, I probably had a few minor ones, I'd say, but my biggest one was definitely that first game that I got to play. It's called Kreitzberg Arena, and it's probably the nicest rink that I've ever played in. It's they really don't hold back. Norwich is really kind of defined by how the hockey, not the school, but the area in itself is really involved and invested with the hockey team. And so a lot goes into it, and then the players inevitably give their best back as kind of a thanks for the way that we're treated and whatnot. But yeah, definitely that first game. They do kind of like to lean on the military stuff before the game. I don't know if it's just an intimidation factor or something against some of the other spots, but definitely there's just the atmosphere. I think like my first game, you'd get sometimes up to around 4,000 fans at a game just in the regular season, and playing for the Winnipeg Blues, where there's other teams like the Moose and the Jets, like you don't really get as many fans because there's kind of those other hockey avenues. So that first game I got to play in, and then I remember I blocked a shot on my first shift, and I remember the crowd kind of let out like a hoorah, and I remember I felt that. And once again, to bring up my dad, I remember I texted him after the game saying when they kind of started cheering for me after that first block shot is when I really kind of sunk in, like I'm gonna enjoy this place.
That's awesome. So can I ask you an academic question? How many times did you declare your major, or did you stick with just one?
I stuck with it. I was actually I did my parents pretty proud. I finished I took my grades pretty seriously. As you were talking about time management, I really took that to heart. And if I'm tooting my own horn, it's 4.0 is the GPA for the max that you could have. I know some spots have a 4.5 and stuff, but I finished with a 3.94. So I got the high honors. So that was my little way to prove to my parents.
The AHCA All-American, Academic All-Americans.
Yeah.
You made that list 3 or 4 years, I believe.
It's weird how they do it. You can't get it your freshman year, but
Right.
you can do sophomore, junior, senior. So I got
Right.
3. I was eligible.
So I'm correct that I did my homework, Taeron. I mean,
Oh yeah. No, you got it. Spot on.
12 goals, 11 assists in your senior year, league play.
Mm-hmm.
What really impressed me is 2 things. One, fourth year senior, plus 28 in the goals plus minus. I'm always a plus minus guy. I'm not a Corsi guy. I'm a plus minus guy. But also there was a letter on the front of your jersey, your senior year as well.
Mm-hmm.
How, when you had that letter, now I'm going to ask that question about your parents being in the stands, but amongst your teammates in the locker room, does it matter? Or is it something that you just realize as a recognition that you are one of those veteran stalwarts on the bench that can be a go-to man, any problem in any situation?
I think it kind of is a little bit of both. I think just we had a really unique blend this year, whereas I was fortunate enough to be one of the guys that was wearing a letter, and I did take it as an honor. But at the end of the day, there's 29, 30 other guys that, I mean, they're doing their own part. They don't need that letter for them to step up to be recognized. So I think that was really something that kind of helped us with our success this year. And just like you kind of said on a personal note, it was nice to kind of get recognized. But at the end of the day, the letter wasn't going to be what made me either play the way that I play or what I do. So it was yeah, like I said, it's kind of just a mix of both. Just it was a perfect blend of team and recognition, I guess.
Excellent. This year was very special for the Cadets. A phenomenal year on the ice. I think was it 28-2 was the record?
We were 24-2-2.
24-2-2. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's 28 games. You were able to be crowned regular season and then playoff championships before everything kind of went to an abrupt halt.
Yeah. We won our regular season championship and just were finishing in first in the conference, and then we played out against Hobart. It was the 3rd year in a row we had played them in the finals, and we ended up coming out on top that time. And then just how it worked out with the NCAA tournament, we were the number 1 team ranked in the nation, and so we got an automatic bid for the first round of that kind of Sweet 16 tournament. Yeah. And but then the whole coronavirus thing kind of came into play, and can't really do much about a pandemic that's out of our hands.
No. So are we going to is ring sizing still going to occur?
Yeah, I don't know. It's my freshman year when we won the national championship, we got the rings, but that was just kind of, I don't know if there'll be a specialty for this year, but our kind of whole common goal is we're not worried about anything but the big one at the end. So we were kind of, it was ride or die for the national championship. So that's how we were judging our ring.
How important is it to know that you've got a team that's bought into a system like that versus personal accolades?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, personal accolades, like, it's great for something down the road or something if you're trying to show off to your kids, like, hey, I scored this many goals or something, or I won this. But at the end of the day, it's a team game. So, I mean, you can't go out there and beat a whole squad on your own. And so just having that whole team mentality, that's everybody's bought in. As you would know as a player yourself, that it's not often that the most skilled team wins. It's the team that's bought in and bleeds what the organization wants. So that's how it goes.
You've got the physical specimen of a bruiser. Were you a winger or a centerman?
I was a centerman, yeah.
Okay, so you had a little bit of wheels on you. What part of your game grew the most throughout what game, so let me rephrase that. What part of your game was easiest to come through, and what part of your game did you have to work on continuously?
I think probably, I wouldn't say the easiest thing for me, but the most consistent thing is just that I've always been a bring your lunch pail kind of guy to work. And so the easiest thing for me is just to inevitably just go out and do all the little things. I always enjoyed, like, it sounds kind of funny, but I love the getting cross-checked in the back in front of the net because it gets you fired up, and then being the first guy in the corner on a defenseman, kind of giving him a bit of a scare and stuff like that. But I mean, I think the the biggest thing for me was just realizing that I don't know, you just got to kind of anticipate things a bit more rather than being reactive, because kind of just there's good enough players out there that if you're just waiting to see what they're doing instead of pressuring them and forcing them into things, they can make you look silly sometimes. So it's just always kind of making sure you're preparing. I know our team did a lot of time with our coach watching video and stuff so that we were kind of prepared and ready for it. So I think the biggest thing is just making sure that you're kind of doing your homework, like talking about school homework, and you got to do your sport homework. You got to make sure you know what you're up against so you're prepared. And I think the biggest thing is just it's kind of funny. I guess my biggest thing was consistency, bringing that effort, but you got to kind of make sure that you don't let that slide.
I think we talked earlier about instinct, having that instinct on the ice, off the ice. I think you also possess another word called passion that truly defines your lunch pail work ethic / attitude to something. If you really love it, it's not work, it's fun. And it becomes a really amazing thing to realize how much fun you can have while being in school.
Absolutely.
We talked about a 4-year program. What was your degree in?
I did business management and finance and accounting.
Okay, so you're going to manage my bookkeeping later on after this episode's over?
Do whatever you need.
We got that figured out. Okay, Taeron Lewis.
Yeah.
Got to ask you a couple of fun questions. Would you rather hear a huge roar from a crowd after a big hit or a game-winning goal?
Oh, you got to go game-winning goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was obviously a cafeteria on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Best food cafeteria served for you guys as players, or best food when you knew it was on the menu, you're like, okay, sweet, I got this.
Ooh. I don't know. It was funny. We did have a cafeteria, but a lot of the times we would kind of pool our money together and do little potlucks. And
there we go. Okay.
So that was kind of one of the things that I liked most. We would go make some chicken and mashed potatoes. Sometimes we would dabble in something special like beef or something.
Sure. Okay.
But the guys kind of ragged on me. But my favorite spot was a restaurant called China Star.
Okay.
I was always getting the guys to go there, and I guess I had an iron gut. They didn't respond to it as well as I did. But
was it a Chinese restaurant? I'm hoping.
Yeah, that was my.
Okay, so a little chow mein, little lo mein noodle, or are we talking about a specialty dish?
Chicken. That was my go-to.
Go a little. Are you spicy? You like a spicy dish?
Load it up. Gotta be
awesome.
Spicy.
Okay, here we go. We got a spicy spot to go check out when you're in Vermont.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is. Music. Who was in charge? Were you in charge of the music in the locker room, or was it a playlist you enjoyed?
I don't know. I mean, there was a kid from Sask. His name's Mike Coral. I sat beside him. He was the music guy, so I'd always give him a song here or there to put in. But I didn't have that pressure of making sure I always had the right music going.
Okay. Why a kid from Saskatchewan? I mean, like usually that's heading right down Country Avenue, Lane 1. I mean, was he okay picking good tunes? Yeah,
no, he was pretty good. We usually had a routine on. Usually it was on Tuesdays. We'd do the throwback tunes. For some reason on Thursdays, for the last skate before the games, Nickelback. Nickelback was our staple. Would be rocking out in the room. So.
Did he get a lot of weird looks from the rest of the players in the locker room, or it was just one of those things they kind of just grew accustomed to?
Yeah, everybody was into it. Beautiful.
Well, I don't know, but that won't be maybe it's less than 3. You have to be having a thick skin when it comes to Nickelback. Maybe that'll be less than 3, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So we talked about the China Star. We talked a little Nickelback. Did you have any superstitions, Taeron, on campus or before a game that you grew into? I mean, anything at all that you might remember doing consistently that was like, okay, this is a good luck thing now?
Yeah, I kind of got laughed at for this, but my superstition is not having superstitions. So I'd make sure if I tied my left skate first, I'd make sure I did the right one next, because I never wanted to have it where I was relying on something to go the right way. Okay,
first stick you owned. Do you remember what it was?
Ooh, I have it downstairs. It's a CCM something with a Yager curve on it.
Okay. That was after his Coho days then. No, before his Coho days.
Oh, it might have been a Coho.
Because I had Yager and Lemieux Coho Revolution, the black, gold, and white ones.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I don't know why.
There we go. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what it was.
And the last stick you used?
A Warrior Alpha. That's the sticks that we were given this year. So.
How good is that knowing you got team sticks? Like, all right. Did you
It's-
enjoy that, or were you the guy that was like, I want my own?
No, I enjoyed the team sticks. It's a bit more financially stable. I don't have to bug the parents as a broke college kid.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. How great was it to see mom and dad in the stands for playoffs?
Oh, it was awesome. It was always kind of funny too. I always had an inkling that they'd be coming around and stuff, but my family likes to do surprises here and there. And I remember one time I was down in the bookstore and I get like a tap on my shoulder and it's like, can you tell me where the bathroom is? And I turn and it's like my sister and my parents are there and I'm like, oh my goodness. Like
that's awesome.
We got a tight knit family. So I'm definitely always ecstatic when I was able to see them there.
That's awesome. So we talked hockey, we've talked academics. Graduation was this year.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
What was it like coming home knowing you may or may not graduate in an auditorium back on campus?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a unique situation. But at the end of the day, like the ceremony, so to speak, is just kind of like a recognition thing. But I mean, I'll still get my diploma in the mail or however it comes. And I still know the work that I put into it and I can still be proud of that. So just the fact that I don't exactly get the auditorium experience is, it's a bit of a downer, but I mean, at the end of the day, that doesn't ruin the entire experience that I've had there for the 4 years. Absolutely.
So we're finished. We're back home. What's next for Taeron Lewis?
What's next is the skates aren't ready to come off yet. You touched on it. I've still got that passion in me to play and do the best that I can. So, I mean, everything's kind of on a bit of a standstill with how, I guess now that the NHL is kind of talking about that 2014 playoff, it'll be interesting to see how things, I guess, transgress next year. So, but at the end of the day, I still want to play, and I'm just in the process of figuring out where that next spot's going to be.
The process staying up in Canada or going back to the States, perhaps?
I'm personally,
overseas?
I'm open to anything, any opportunity that comes. So I've got, I've got nothing holding me back from anywhere.
Well, the only thing that's going to hold you back, I think, Taeron, is yourself. Simply because I know you can put the work ethic in. I'm pretty sure mom and dad got that workout schedule for you at home. I know mom's got a little dog, a little bulldog, one of my favorites. I see the pictures all the time. You could probably outrun the little guy, but now I heard he's got some wheels you can push him around in, right?
Yeah, Ruby, she's just got a little buggy. She'll be, instead of doing a sled push, I'll be pushing Ruby in the stroller there. So.
Or you can put Ruby on top of a sled and a bunch of 50-pound weights too.
Yeah, I wouldn't need the 50-pound weights with her though. She's a tank.
She is a
yeah.
To put it lightly, yes. Bulldogs are tanks, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Taeron, I want to thank you very much for joining me on the ice today. It's always great to hear a great story about someone who's made it through the ranks and still has a passion for both student athletics and academics. To anybody that's watching, whether they be Blues alums, Cadet alums, any take-home message or one sort of last words you want to give out to everyone?
Just kind of the thing that I've touched upon is just always give it your all, because if you are going through the ranks, you never know who's watching and you never know what opportunities come. So just make sure you're ready for when that opportunity comes to bust that door down.
I want to thank you very much, Taeron. Great way to end it. On the ice here on ASTV. We'll have this out. We look forward to having this with you again. Thank you again, Taeron, and good luck on your next choice.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. It's an honor to be on here.
Right on.
Hi, I'm Nettie Weiss from Metal Master. You had an accident? Sometimes they're embarrassing, but they're always inconvenient. We have an incredible staff to take care of you. We have platinum certified techs in 4 different categories. We are certified as a gold class accredited shop. If you've made a claim already, perfect. Call us with your claim number. If you need a claim opened, give us a call. We'll walk you through it. Sometimes you can get a little nervous dealing with NPI. We'll help you out.